So, yeah, before we get to your baseball package, Tyvis sent us a text over maybe it was the weekend, whenever it was.
By the way, let me take people behind the scenes.
No, please.
So
no.
we have about 7,000 chat groups. Now we've kind of pared it down.
Oh my goodness.
Most of the time, most of our group chatting is now done in what we call what's the name of
good
the
group, bad group.
Because it was for
the
bets.
good bet group, right? We call it the good bet group. All right, and that group chat we've eliminated the people that don't have iPhones from that chat. No offense. Steve K is out, Mike's out, and Steve Becker's out.
Steve ain't got an iPhone.
Because you can't name. Oh, is Steve in?
Director Steve's in it, yeah.
Oh, Director Steve. Steve Becker and Mike Polk are out because they don't have iPhones, and we don't want the green nonsense.
We just
and you can't name the group.
iPhone.
You can't name the group if you don't have an iPhone. So in the good bet group, that's our group. So it's the three of us. It's Mike, it's Anthony, it's Steve, it's Earl, Jason.
Jay, Brad. It's everyone that's not here.
That's true.
Yeah.
Although Brad almost never responds to anything.
You know, he did
Neither
this
does
weekend.
Jay.
Somebody say he did this weekend.
He wished everyone a happy Father's Day this weekend.
That's
out
true.
of the blue.
But most of the talking in that group is done by Tyvis, Jason, Mike, and me.
You.
And
what about me?
G. Bush comes in like 5 hours later.
Oh, I should say
G. Bush, like 5 hours later, he then responds to all the different topics.
They're like, that was 3 days ago, man.
It's like, what is that response to? I don't know.
Gotta go back through.
Tyvis, so at least once a day, there is a post in this chat group from some rando on Twitter who like we never heard of. And Tyvis will tweet some like rumor in the NBA or baseball. And it'll be like, are you guys buying this? Is this credible? And it's from like Leroy Horde's Ghost or whatever.
Wait, that account today actually does have a tiny ounce of like.
What was that one? What was the one today?
The Ghost of Leroy, which is PFT from Part of My Takes Dead Dog, which breaks news.
And Tyvis goes, is this credible?
It's got a bunch of activity on it. It could have been Jaylen Brown's burner account.
He's tweeting like more than Cleveland or whatever that one is. All these randos.
I like it, man. You
it's great.
I'm tapped in. What? I'm tapped in.
And if you get in trouble, you can always say, I ran it by them dudes. I ran it by the veterans. I asked Bull, was this legit? He gave me the green light.
Okay, so only because we got to get your thing in, Bull. I'll let this go. But Tyvis put something in the group chat this weekend.
Right.
And he essentially sparked an idea. And I forget the exact text. This was not a silly text. He asked about the future of NBA big men and can anyone kind of be like Jokic. And it made me think. And I'm going to ask Tyvis this first, and we'll go around. Tyvis, we watched the NBA Finals. We saw the Nuggets win. Is there any lesson we learned from the team construction of the Nuggets, from the way they play to the way they're coached, to the way they develop, to their patience, to their transactions, anything we could take away from what we saw the Nuggets do over the last couple of seasons that accumulated in a championship this year that we think the Cavs can learn from and implement into their program and system moving forward?
Well, the number one thing is that they stuck together. You know, obviously Nikola Jokic, the crazy thing is Nikola Jokic been the same kind of guy he is now. He's been like that. He's just kind of been washed away because he kept getting eliminated in the playoffs. You know, they went up against the Warriors, and Draymond Green kind of had his number, so we kind of forgot about him. But Jamal Murray, he got injured, but Jamal Murray has always been such a good shooter. Michael Porter Jr. has always been a shooter. But what the key thing you could take away is you got to ask more of these big men nowadays. You know, these guys, obviously, you know, back in the 90s, it was about post moves, you know, being in the paint, defending the cup, and having the post moves. Now you move forward. Now these big men have jump shots on them. What Nikola Jokic has just done has put the ball in his hands, and now he's become more of a point guard at center. So what it's doing is now it's pulling centers out of the paint. Now you got guys that's opening up the paint for those backdoor cuts, which is more efficient shots. Like Michael Porter Jr. had a terrible. He went from being a sharp shooter in the finals to being a backdoor cutter and getting dunks and stuff like that. So I think what Nikola Jokic has done is he's challenged a lot of centers around the NBA. You know, hey, we need to be more facilitators as well. We can't just sit in the paint and hog clog the paint up. We got to be able to come out, be able to dish the ball. And if you could do that, I think that opens up a lot of offense for other guys. Instead of guys just being all shooters, they can be two-way players. You can shoot and you can cut and get the backdoor cuts too.
Gee.
I think what we learned, I'm going to piggyback on what Tyvis said a little bit. You look at Miami and Bam Adebayo and what he did in his metamorphosis in the playoffs. Look what he did. He goes from being a guy in the regular season where he's just, maybe hit an elbow jumper, maybe get on a rebound, defensive intensity, being an anchor in the paint. You go to the playoffs, now Bam Adebayo, he not only steps his game up, but Eric Spoelstra was genius enough and had enough leeway to give him to let him now bring the ball up the court, let him initiate the offense. And I think that's what propelled them to get into the finals. But on the other end, you look at Jokic, and Tyvis said something that I thought is important, that you nowadays you got to demand more of your big men. I think one of the things that we saw is we're with an antiquated process. We believe that we have two twin towers and that Jared Allen brings something, this defense and different things like that. He does bring that. However, when you look at those numbers, 14 points a game, 10 rebounds, those are on putbacks, those are on rim running and lobs, those are on what we'll call garbage buckets. In order to beat these top teams, you're not only going to have to be able to guard Jokic, you're going to have to be able to get yours on the opposite end of the court as well. Yeah. Because you can't afford to play Jared Allen against these guys, and these guys are going at him offensively and keep hammering and keep going at him the entire game. But defensively, they don't have to play him. They can sink off of them, sag off, and now your guards, whether it's a Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, or even a Mobley, things are now packed up and congested. So I think when you look at it, you're going to have to look at saying, okay, what do I want out of my center position? Center is no longer a throwaway position that you just throw away and just get all these little guards. That's just not the way it works. So,
and by the way, Jared Allen can't defend Jokic anyway.
No, so
he has no ability to defend Jokic.
He can't do that anyway.
Even though he was a good regular season defender. I think the thing you can potentially learn from the Nuggets is really only to be patient with the coach. Now, that doesn't mean if you're patient, like if the Cavs are patient with JB, that it's going to pan out. But the Nuggets had a number of opportunities over the last few years where you wouldn't have been surprised if they had fired Michael Malone, and yet they didn't, right? And I think a big part of the reason that we learned this year is that Jokic and Malone appear to have an excellent relationship. And if your star believes in your coach, you're going to stick with the coach. Now, I don't know what Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley think of JB Bickerstaff. I assume they all like him, but I don't know that to be certain. I don't think the Cavs will be as patient. I will give them credit. They have, they could. A lot of us were calling for J.B. Bickerstaff to be fired after the way the season ended, and the Cavs have been patient, and maybe that will pay off. In terms of the roster makeup itself, I don't know that you can learn much because, I agree with what you guys are saying, that you need your center to do more. I don't know if there are that many big guys that are capable of doing what Jokic can do. No. Now, we're to the point now where you talk about in the 90s. When I grew up as a kid, and you too, G, because you're not as old as me, but you're a lot older than Tyvis. And when we grew up as kids, you never even thought about your big men taking outside shots. It was not even something that ever crossed your mind because it didn't really happen. Like Kareem taking the skyhook from the maybe the top of the key or the foul line.
Right.
Like that was about as far out as any big guy went.
Karl Malone, like in the early, late 80s, early 90s, you started to see power forwards and centers move out a little. Patrick Ewing started to develop a jump shot.
Yeah, but he wasn't shooting threes.
No. When I say
none of them was shooting no threes.
I'm talking 12 to 15.
Yes, become a little more flexible, never taking threes.
Step backs or nothing.
I mean, Jokic is a freak. There's not, even now, where there are more big guys that can do more things, he still stands out amongst these guys. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, and I'll let you guys get back to this, but I want to mention one thing about Jokic. In the history of the NBA playoffs, the guys who have played 50 games, he ranks in the top 20 of points, rebounds, assists, and field goal percentage.
Game?
Per game.
Yeah.
In the playoffs. They've played 50 games. He is a very good scorer. He's arguably the greatest passing big of all time, and he's an elite rebounder. And he does not get credit because he's not super athletic. The dude
He doesn't
wakes
look
up
good out there.
and he has 17, 18 rebounds a game.
And you don't even realize it.
And you can't replicate that because there's
No.
not another Jokic.
No,
So,
but what I would say is that every year that goes by, it feels like there's less and less of a place in the league for a player like Jared Allen.
that's my point.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I just don't know that there's a spot for him in this NBA.
And if you do have a guy like Jared Allen, it has to be with a team of shooters.
Yeah.
Right.
It's
Yes.
almost like the Mavericks in 2011. You could have another big. Dirk and Tyson Chandler played together, and that's a different era of basketball, but at least the team.
Yeah, right. But that's a long time ago at this point.
And I know, but I'm saying the
Yeah.
team construction, because Dirk was a stretch four. You have Chandler, then you have Jason Kidd who developed into a good shooter, Jason Terry, and their three was Sean Marion, who was a decent shooter. But they had everyone else on the floor could shoot. And if you're going to run pick and roll with a guy
Right.
who's a defensive-minded, non-shooting center, who's in the middle of the lane for 48 or 46 of the 48 minutes he would be on the floor, you can't have anyone else
Right.
with a foot in the paint, or there's just no room to operate on
and
offense.
at this point, Mobley can't shoot from the outside really either. So
Those two don't work.
And the rest of their team is not like they don't have a million great shots. Obviously, Garland and Mitchell can shoot, but that's about it. And when you look at Jared Allen, that style of player, like how many guys are there in the NBA
It's
at
fewer
this point
and
that
fewer
play
and
significant
fewer.
minutes?
Fewer and fewer and fewer.
Williams for the Celtics.
Well, he only plays 27 minutes a
Right, like,
game.
he don't
Switch him out with
I'm
Al
about to
Horford.
say, yeah.
Clint Capella for the Hawks.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Alperen Sengun of the Houston Rockets, but he plays no defense. He's just a non-shooting
Right. What about the
big.
kid, the rookie from Atlanta?
Okongwu?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, him and Capella switch, but they're the exact same rim runner defensive guy.
And I was
Gobert.
Yes, that's the big one.
Right,
I was
say,
Right.
Rudy
Carl
Gobert.
Anthony Towns is.
That's why that
shooter.
trade is terrible.
Right.
It's horrible.
There's not a
If
lot
you
of
have a guy
guys
like
that
Jared
play
Allen,
that way.
He needs to be on a team like the Warriors.
And
Like,
by
that's
the way,
the only place that fits.
A couple of the other guys we mentioned there are young players that maybe will get better, maybe as they get older. Same thing with Mobley. Right now, Mobley's one of those guys to some degree, but we're hoping that his offensive game and his perimeter game will develop as
He
the years
had
go
games though where he shot really
by. Yeah, I mean,
well.
he's not useless from the outside,
Yeah.
where Jared Allen just can't do anything
It's nothing.
from the
Yeah.
outside.
All right, one last thing, one
Yeah.
last point, then we'll get to your baseball thing here.
Yeah.
Another key takeaway I had, and Tyvis, I want you and G to answer this real quick, and then Bull will get to you. But
Yeah.
both teams, Nuggets and Miami, extremely unselfish, willing to make that extra pass. And I go
That's
back
huge.
and I went through and watched a bunch of Cavs games over, and I was making mental notes and watching back. I'm not sure, and maybe because it's younger, maybe it's the regular season. I know it's not apples to apples. There wasn't a ton of times where Cleveland seemed willing just to make that extra pass to get a good shot, pass up on that, and get a great shot.
That's not true. That's
Okay.
not true.
Okay.
That one in the Knicks game, Darius Garland was the one that got everybody. He was the one that was doing that. He was the only one that was actually.
But he was the
facilitating.
only one. So that's
That's,
one
that's
guy.
what I'm saying. But at the end of the day,
Mike's right.
he's
Mike,
right what he's saying for sure.
Those teams are completely unselfish, and that's a big. Now, LeBron went to the finals a million times, and he did a
It's
lot
not
of
the
dribble,
only
dribble,
way.
dribble.
It's not the only way. But
Right.
I'm just saying those teams, it was so obvious watching as someone who played and loves basketball.
Yeah.
It didn't matter if it was Jokic passing up a good shot, Murray,
I wanna
even
say-
Michael Porter Jr., who sometimes has the pass button broken,
Yeah.
was making an extra pass to Christian Brown in the corner for an open three.
Also, it feels like Miami and Denver kind of play positionless to some degree.
And they have
Everybody-
offense.
Adebayo and Jokic bring up the ball.
Well, I
Right.
mean, you got two dudes that's really good at passing. Like, yeah, Jokic gets the triple double or the double doubles, but Jamal Murray was getting 10 assists a game too. So
Yes.
you got two unselfish guys, and
Right.
for it to come from, obviously the point guard's responsibility is to facilitate, but to come from the center, that's the part
That's
that's
right.
was
Not a lot
like,
of
wow,
teams
I
can do it.
did not expect that.
And that's why they're going to be hard to beat. Go ahead.